Hello everyone, I hope you have a good day today. So today, join me to learn, read, listen and have fun for this video. So, we are going to learn about ecological systems theory cognitive development. So, what is ecological systems theory? So, we will going to discuss that later on. So first we have the content, of course. The content of this topic is the proponent of ecological systems theory, ecological systems theory, Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory, nature versus nurture, and implication for practice. So the next slide is Yuri Bronfenbrenner. Yuri Bronfenbrenner is an American psychologist formulated the ecological systems theory. So the proponent of the ecological systems theory is Mr. Yuri Bronfenbrenner to explain how social environment affect children's development. He was born on April 29, 1917 and died on September 25, 2005. So this theory looks at a child's development within the context of the systems of relationship that form his or her environment. It also defines complex layers of environment, each having an effect on child's development. So in environment, there are layers that affect the development of the child, which we are going to discuss it later on. This theory has recently been renamed bioecological systems theory. So, ecological systems theory was renamed into bioecological systems theory, which is to emphasize that a child's own biology is a primarily environment fueling her development. The interaction between factors in the child's maturing biology, his immediate family or community environment, and the societal landscape fuels and steers his development. So, when we say biology, this is the study of all living organisms or the study of life. And when we say immediate environment, this is the building in which you live or work and the area very close to it. Next, changes or conflict in any one layer will ripple through other layer. To study a child's development, then we must look not only at the child and her immediate environment, but also the interaction of the larger environment as well. So, let's see what are the layers of ecological system. So we have the microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, macrosystem, chronosystem. So what are the meanings of this and what are the examples of this now? So we will go first to microsystem. This layer closest to the child and contains the structures with which the child has direct contact. The microsystem encompasses the relationships and interaction a child has with her immediate surroundings. By birth 2000. Structures in the microsystem include family, school, neighborhood, or childcare environments. At this level, relationships have impact in two directions, both away from the child and toward of the child. So when we say that directions both away from the child and toward of the child, this means that the child is affected by people with whom he or she interacts, and in turn these people are also affected by the child. So let's proceed to the next one. Myers calls this bidirectional influences, and he shows how they occur among all levels of environment. The interaction of structures within a layer and interaction of structures between layers is key to this theory. At this at the microsystem level, bidirectional influences are strongest and have the greatest impact on the child. However, interaction at other levels can still impact the inner structures. So, when we say bidirectional, means involving, moving, or taking place into usually opposite directions. So, it's like what I've mentioned earlier, when the microsystem enters the environment that the child lives in as well as those close to it. The school or daycare, peer group, and community. This includes school or daycare because we call our school second home, right? And if you look at it, a big part of our life is where we are at school. Another example is peer group. When we say peer group, it is a group of people of approximately the age and interests. Peer group includes the child's classmates, his friends at school, same age, usually the same age range of the children who are there in one section. Next is community, where the neighbor, friends who live near the house, and younger people. So, the second one is mesosystem. This layer provides the connection between the structures of the child's microsystem. So, when we say mesosystem, this is the interaction of the environment that they're in microsystem. This shows the interaction of environment that exists in the microsystem like home and school, parents and teachers. For example, in school, there are PTA meetings, right? There the parent and teachers have a connection. And also, when giving the card, the teachers don't want to give it directly to the students, diba? So, the parent or the guardian must take it. The next example is peer group. Peer group and family. Another example of this is the parent, they wait for their children to come out. So what happens is the parents becomes friends. That's when the connection between the peer group and family is formed. And the next one is family and community. Examples that shows connection of family and community is when every community has projects, sometimes every family has to participate. For example, in sweeping and in general cleaning, ganon. The third one is exosystem. Exosystem, this layer defines the larger social system in which the child does not function directly. The structures in this layer impact the child's development by interacting with some structure in her microsystem. So here in exosystem, it didn't happen directly to the child, but he or she was still affected. So, for example, Hannah is the only child of James and Linda. When there was a pandemic and both Linda and James lost their jobs because of that, Linda and James has difficulty providing for Hannah's school needs. That's why she was stopped from going to school. If we study the example, Hannah's parents lost their jobs. It didn't happen directly to her, but she is affected because her parents didn't have a job and they had a hard time paying for her education needs. So what happened was that she stopped from studying. That's how the exosystem, it didn't happen to the child directly, but she was still affected. That's it. We also have here the parent workplace schedules or community-based family resources are some of examples also. So the child may not be directly involved at this level, but he does feel the positive or negative force involved with the interaction with her own system. So the fourth one is macro system. This layer may be considered the outermost layer in the child's environment. While not being a specific framework, this layer is comprised of culture, values, customs, laws, the effects of larger principles defined by the macro system have a cascading influence throughout the interaction of the other layer. If it is the belief of culture that parents should be solely responsible for raising their children, that culture less likely to provide resources to help parents. This in turn affects the structures in which the parent function. The parent ability and or inability to carry out the responsibility toward their children within the context of the child's microsystem is likewise affected. So when we say macro system, it is the extensive because it contains the culture, beliefs, tradition. It also the development of the child's because each culture has its own beliefs, ideas, and traditions. So another example here is the if two children who grow up in different cultures have different opinions, different ideas, different views on things. And lastly, we have the chrono system. This system encompasses the dimension of time as it relates to a child's environments. Elements within this system can be either external, such as at the timing of a parent's death, or internal, such as the physiological changes that occur with the aging of a child. As children get older, they may react differently to environmental changes and may be more able to determine more how that change will influence them. So in chrono system, these are the patterns of events and transitions in the child's life. We also have nature versus nurture. More modern child development theories accept that both a child's biology and his environment play a role in change and growth. Theories now focus on the role played by each and the extent to which they interact in ongoing development. Bronfenbrenner's ecological system theory focuses on the quality and context of the child's environment. He states that as a child develops, the interaction within their environments becomes more complex. This complexity can arise as the child's physical and cognitive structures grow and mature. So, given that nature continues on a given path, how does the world that surrounds the child help or hinder continued development? This is the question answered by Bronfenbrenner theory. So, in answering the nature versus nurture question, Bronfenbrenner suggests that the contributions of nature or nurture cannot be separated easily because they are part of a dynamic system constantly influencing one another. Yuri Bronfenbrenner, co-founder of Head Start, uses his bioecological model to provide a startlingly clear view of the problems we have been seeing in our students and in our families. He says that technology has changed our society. And while we are taking great pains to safeguard the physical environment from the damage done by a technology, we have spent no resources to provide similar safeguards to the damage done to our societal. So, Bronfenbrenner says that technology has changed our society because right now, for example, the generations now are more on technologies like the children's they use technologies for online games pero nung tayo noon 'di ba is wala pa yung mga technologies na ginagamit. Henderson 1995, our economy has shifted from an industrial model to a technological model. Yet the patterns of the workplace have continued to rely on the factory work ethic. Parents are expected to work a schedule that revolves around the factory whistle, even though they may work in the high-tech office. The technology that enables workers to be free a manual labor should also free from the time and place boundary, yet our work ethic demands more face time, not less. Family life in this country has taken a back seat to the needs of the workplace. Also of concern to Bronfenbrenner is the deficit model. So when we say deficit model, this is the a perspective which attributes failure such a lack of achievement, learning, or success in gaining employment to a personal lack of effort or deficiency in the individual. So this deficit model used to determine the level of support granted by the public to struggling families. Parents must declare themselves deficient in some way in order to quality for help in solving problems among to support. By working from this deficit model, we expect families to hold their hands up from deep inside a black hole of helpless. Them, we expect them to have the psychological strength to climb up the thin rope the throw down. So nature versus nurture is a long-standing debate in biology and about the relative influence on human beings of their genetic inheritance. This is the nature and the environmental conditions of their development, which is the nurture. Next, we have also the implication for practice. Bronfenbrenner sees the instability and unpredictability of family life we've let our economy create as the most destructive force to a child's development by Addison 1992. Children do not have the constant mutual interaction with important adults that is necessary developed. According to the ecological theory, if the relationship in the immediate microsystem break down, the child will not have the tools to explore other parts of his environment. Children looking for the affirmations that should be present in the child or parent, or child or other important adult. Relationship look for the attention in appropriate places. So these deficiencies shows themselves especially in adolescence as antisocial behavior, lack of self-discipline, and inability to provide self-direction. This theory has dire implications for the practice of teaching. Knowing about the breakdown occurring within children's homes, is it possible for our educational systems to make up these deficiencies? So let's find out. It seems now that it necessary for schools and teachers to provide stable, long-term relationships. Yet, Bronfenbrenner believes that the primary relationships needs to be with someone who can provide a sense of caring that meant to last a lifetime. This relationship must be fostered by a person or people within immediate sphere of the child's influence. So schools and teachers fulfill an important secondary role, but cannot provide the complexity of interaction that can be provided by primary adults. For the educational community attempt, a primary role is to help our society continue its denial to the real issue. The problems students and families face are caused by the conflict between the workplace and family life, not between families and schools. Schools and teachers should work to support the primary relationship and to create an environment that welcomes and nurtures families. We, we can do this while we work to realize Bronfenbrenner's ideal of the creation of public policy that eases the work or family conflict. It is the it is in the best interest of our entire society to lobby for political and economic policies that support the importance of parents' roles in their children's development. Bronfenbrenner would also agree that we should foster societal attitudes that value work done on behalf of children at all levels, like parents, teachers, intended family, mentors, work supervisors, and legislators. So, to summarize this topic for this hour, ecological systems theory. In this theory, Bronfenbrenner posits that a child's development is a product of both their biology and a series of systems that surrounded the child. So the series of nested systems that impact the child are the microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, macrosystem, and chronosystem. So that's all for our topic for today. So I hope you understand our lesson. So before we end this video, I'm going to give a assignment for you if you really watch my report or my video. So, number one for your assignment, number one, how many years of ecological systems theory? Number one, I repeat, how many years of ecological systems theory? Number two, who is the proponent of ecological systems theory of cognitive development? Number two, who is the proponent of ecological systems theory of cognitive development? And last, number three, how social environment affects children? Number three, how social environment affects children. So that's all for today. Thank you. Thank you very much for participating. God bless.